Have you ever looked in the mirror one morning and thought to yourself, I feel fine, a little slower maybe, but I'm okay. And yet, somewhere deep inside, there's a feeling you can't quite name, a sense that something shifted, nothing dramatic, no pain, no diagnosis, just a quiet difference in the way you move, think, breathe, or feel. For many older adults, the body doesn't send loud alarms when something begins to change. It whispers. And unless you're really listening, really attuned to your own rhythm, it's easy to miss what those whispers are trying to tell you, that you might be entering a different chapter, one that requires more tenderness, more attention, more presence. For some, that chapter might be the final one. And here's the surprising part. It doesn't always feel like the end. In fact, many who are in their final year feel just fine. It's not something we like to talk about. No one wants to sit down and ask, is this my last year? But what if recognizing the signs early could help you live that time more fully, more peacefully, more meaningfully? What if these quiet shifts aren't a warning to fear, but an invitation to live differently, deeper, softer, more connected to the moments that really matter? You see, the signs are there, gentle, almost invisible at first, but they're there. Maybe you've noticed changes in your appetite or your sleep. Maybe you've started losing interest in the things that used to bring you joy without even realizing it. These changes don't scream, they hum. And when you finally tune into them, they can tell you so much about what your body and your spirit might be trying to say. In this video, we're going to talk gently and honestly about these signs, not to scare you, not to predict anything, but to give you the gift of awareness. Because when we understand what's changing inside us, we're no longer afraid of it. We learn to walk with it, with grace, with intention, with courage. And I want to tell you this from the heart. This conversation is not about death. It's about life, about how to recognize when life is asking you to slow down, to simplify, to savor, about how to bring meaning to every moment, especially if time is becoming more precious than ever. You won't hear fear here, only truth and tenderness, and hopefully, comfort. In just a moment, we'll start with the first of these gentle signs. It's one that many people overlook, even though it often appears months before any major issue arises. But once you see it, you'll never forget it. And if you recognize it in yourself or someone you love, you'll know it's time to pay attention. Not with panic, but with presence. Before we continue, if this video speaks to something in you, I invite you to take a second and click that like button or subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment if you've ever felt these quiet shifts in yourself or a loved one. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. This space is here for us to grow wiser together, with compassion and care. Now let's begin. Sometimes the first sign isn't something physical at all. It's a quiet disinterest that sneaks into your days. You might still get up at the same time, fix your breakfast, do the crossword like always. But the joy, the sparkle that used to come with these small routines feels just a little more faded. You might brush it off as boredom or a cloudy day, or maybe just age catching up. But deep down, you know it's different. It's not about being tired, it's about being detached, disconnected. What's often misunderstood is that this emotional withdrawal isn't always depression. It can be something softer, subtler, a natural turning inward. You might find yourself reminiscing more, not out of nostalgia, but as if you're tidying up your memories, as if without realizing it, you're preparing. You stop feeling pulled toward the future, and instead you start gently letting go of the need to plan or fix or change anything. This emotional slowing down can be one of the earliest and most overlooked signals that a person is transitioning, not just through age, but through time. And it can come long before any medical professional might notice anything at all. Friends may say you seem quieter. Children might ask if everything's okay. And you, not knowing exactly how to answer, just smile and say, I'm fine. And maybe you are. But maybe deep down, something inside you is shifting in a way even you don't fully understand yet. The truth is, the final chapter doesn't always arrive with pain or crisis. Often it comes like the end of a long song, the final note softer, slower, more reflective. You might find yourself sitting longer by the window, watching the sky more often. You may stop answering the phone as quickly, not out of annoyance, but simply because the noise feels unnecessary. Silence feels enough. And here's the beautiful part. If we're open to it, this stage isn't about loss. It's about presence. It's about noticing. It's about hearing birds outside and actually listening. It's about sipping your tea slower, holding your breath longer after a deep inhale, as if you want to memorize the feel of air inside your lungs. There's no rush, nothing urgent. And perhaps that's the point. But because our world moves so fast, these signs are often missed or misunderstood. Family members might try to cheer you up. Doctors might look for a diagnosis. But not everything needs fixing. Sometimes what's needed most is witnessing, just being there, just understanding. And if you've noticed yourself slipping into this gentle space, know this. It's okay. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how your body begins to whisper too, not through pain, but through patterns. Things that were once easy, like keeping balance or walking across a room, start to feel just a little less automatic. You might not fall, you might not even stumble, but something feels off, and it matters, because your body, just like your spirit, has its own way of preparing. Are you ready to hear what it's been trying to say all along? Stay with me. What comes next might surprise you. It might help you see yourself in a more powerful, more compassionate way than ever before. You stand up from a chair, and there's a hesitation you didn't notice before. Not because you're dizzy, not because something hurts, but because your legs seem to need a moment, like they're checking in with you first, asking, are we really ready for this? That second of pause might seem small, but it holds a message. The body, in its infinite quiet wisdom, often knows before we do that something deeper is changing. You might brush it off, tell yourself you're just tired, or that it's the weather, or maybe you didn't sleep well. And that might be true once or twice, but when that hesitation becomes a pattern, when you start reaching for the armrest a little more often, or holding the edge of the table just to steady yourself, something more might be unfolding. This isn't about frailty. It's not about weakness. It's about awareness. The body, as we age, begins to slow down in ways that are not always obvious. Muscles shrink ever so slightly. Nerves communicate just a beat slower. The coordination between mind and motion begins to stretch out like the final note of a song. And because it doesn't hurt, because it doesn't scream, it's so easy to miss. But here's where it gets tender. Many people in their final year begin to show this gradual physical decline, not as a medical emergency, but as a soft erosion of once simple acts. The walk to the kitchen becomes something you think about before doing. You start planning your movements, mapping out paths with fewer steps, fewer stairs, fewer risks. You start choosing the chair with arms. You sit longer before rising, and sometimes you sit and don't rise at all, not because you can't, but because you no longer feel the need to. This is the body speaking in its own language, not with words, but with pace, with hesitation, with subtle, patient signals that say, slow down, be here. Something important is happening. And if you've felt this gentle reluctance to move quickly, this silent negotiation with your own body, know that you're not alone. Millions of older adults feel this shift every day. The world might not notice, but you do, and the noticing itself is powerful. It gives you a choice. You can resist it, fear it, deny it, or you can honor it. Lean into it. Use it as a cue to treat your body with even more care, with even more gratitude. The beauty of these signs is not just that they alert you, it's that they invite you to listen, to reflect, to approach each day not with urgency, but with presence, with awareness. You don't have to move fast to move meaningfully. Sometimes the stillness holds more truth than the action ever could. Soon we'll talk about another quiet but profound signal, one that has less to do with what you do and more to do with what you stop doing. A subtle shift in your routines, your interests, and even your social habits. Something that might seem innocent, like saying no to a gathering or skipping a favorite hobby, but might hold a deeper message from within. Stay with me, because recognizing this shift early on might just change how you choose to spend the time ahead. Not with fear, but with intention, with grace, and with love. There comes a moment, sometimes unnoticed, when you begin turning down invitations more often than you accept them. A phone call rings and you let it go to voicemail. A neighbor knocks on the door, and you pause before answering, unsure if you're up for the conversation. The monthly gathering you used to enjoy now feels like too much. Not because you don't care, not because you're unhappy, but because something inside you is slowly pulling inward, like the tide drawing back from the shore. This quiet withdrawal is one of the most overlooked shifts in the final chapter of life. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It's not accompanied by loneliness or bitterness. It's often peaceful, intentional even. You begin to crave silence more than conversation, stillness more than stimulation, familiar comfort more than new experiences. It's as if your soul starts choosing where to place its remaining energy, and social chatter just isn't where it wants to be anymore. Loved ones might not understand. They may worry. They might say, "You need to get out more," or "Don't isolate yourself." And you smile, not wanting to alarm them, but deep down you feel that it's not about being isolated. It's about being complete, full, as though your heart is no longer reaching outward, but turning toward its own center. If you've noticed this in yourself, it might feel strange at first. You remember how much you used to enjoy certain people, certain places, certain pastimes, and now they don't call to you the same way. It's not sadness. It's not even fatigue. It's more like a gentle closing of a book you've already read and loved. A quiet understanding that you don't need to reread every chapter to appreciate its meaning. This isn't something to fix. It's something to honor. In many cultures, this inward turn is seen as sacred, a preparation, a kind of emotional nesting, a gathering of the spirit before a great departure. The truth is, this stage of life doesn't demand constant connection. It asks for reflection. It asks for peace. So if you find yourself saying no more often, not out of fear, but out of preference, listen to that. If your world has become smaller, quieter, more familiar, that might not be a sign of decline. It might be a sign of grace. But here's something important to remember. While this withdrawal can be natural, it also offers an opportunity, a choice, to spend your quieter moments in ways that feed your spirit, that bring comfort, closure, or clarity. Maybe it's writing a letter to someone you love. Maybe it's listening to a favorite old song. Maybe it's just sitting in your favorite chair, letting the sun warm your face. These small moments, they become everything. And sometimes in that stillness, you may feel something stir inside. A feeling that you want to speak to someone, just one person, not many, just someone who really matters. That too is a sign, not of fear, but of focus. The circle narrows, but the love inside it grows stronger. In a little while, we'll talk about another subtle but powerful change that happens as time becomes more precious. Something that starts deep inside your body, a change in your relationship with food. It's one of the clearest signs that something within you is shifting. Not a loss of appetite from illness, but a quiet stepping away from the act of eating itself. And if you've experienced this or are seeing it in someone you love, you'll want to stay with me. Because when the body begins to let go of its hunger, it's often speaking a language of closure, not of sickness. And that's something we need to understand with tenderness, not fear. You push the plate away a little sooner than usual. Maybe it's breakfast, maybe dinner. The food tastes fine, but you just don't feel like finishing it. Not because it's bland, not because your stomach hurts. There's simply no desire. You're not hungry, and you realize it's been like this for a while now. You've started skipping meals here and there. You forget to snack. The fridge is fuller than it used to be because less is being taken out. You're eating less, and strangely, it doesn't bother you. For most of our lives, eating is tied to energy, celebration, rhythm, a part of life's background music. But as people quietly move into the final season of life, the body begins to detach from this routine, and it does so softly. There's no big announcement, no sudden refusal, just a gradual fading of interest. Meals become smaller, portions go untouched, favorite foods no longer excite. This change can be puzzling to family members. You need to eat, they might say, gently insisting, placing a spoon in your hand or offering your favorite treat. They mean well. They're worried, but they don't always understand that the body is no longer asking for nourishment in the same way. It's not shutting down. It's letting go. What many people don't realize is that this is deeply natural. As the body enters its final phase, the digestive system slows down. not from dysfunction, but as part of a beautifully orchestrated process of simplification. Just as trees shed their leaves and fall, the body begins to release the things it no longer needs. Appetite is one of them. But the story isn't only physical, it's emotional too. Food is memory. Food is tradition. So when the desire for it fades, it can stir something in the heart, a quiet sorrow, a sense of detachment from the rituals that once shaped our days. Sunday dinners, morning tea, a favorite cookie by the window. And yet, in that space where food once held meaning, something else begins to rise. Stillness, perhaps, or reflection, or gratitude for the meals that came before. If this is something you've noticed, whether in yourself or someone you love, try not to resist it with fear. Instead, listen. Ask gently, is this a sign of distress or a sign of peace? Is the body aching for help, or is it simply whispering its readiness for rest? The answer might surprise you. Of course, always speak with a doctor if sudden changes happen. But when no illness is found and this shift unfolds gently, lovingly, it may be the body's quiet way of saying, "Thank you, I've had enough." And in these moments, there's an opportunity to make eating less about quantity and more about presence. A few bites of a beloved soup, a single strawberry savored, a cup of warm tea held between two hands. These small gestures can still be full of meaning. They can say, "I'm still here," without forcing the body to carry more than it wishes to. Soon we'll look at another sign, perhaps the most tender of them all. It's not physical. It's not emotional. It lives somewhere in between. It's when a person begins to feel deeply okay with whatever comes next. A kind of acceptance that arrives not with resignation, but with quiet strength. And when it does, you'll know. Because the way you talk, the way you look at life, even the way you say goodbye, everything starts to feel different and impossibly, beautifully peaceful. Stay with me. There's a kind of stillness that settles in a person, not the stillness of fatigue, not the stillness of giving up, but something more profound. It's the kind of stillness that comes when the heart stops wrestling with what's next. When questions like, "How much time do I have?" no longer carry fear, but are simply met with a soft, steady breath. This is acceptance, not the loud kind, not the kind announced to others, but a gentle, invisible knowing that begins to color everything. You hear it in the way someone speaks. Their words slow down, not because they're tired, but because there's less need to fill the silence. You see it in the eyes, a gaze that lingers a little longer, as if each glance is an act of farewell, though nothing is said. You feel it in their presence, grounded, open, not anxious, not even sad, just ready. This shift often happens long before anyone else notices, and that's what makes it so powerful. It's not the result of a diagnosis or a hospital visit. It's not brought on by pain or panic. It comes like a gentle tide, washing over the soul, saying, "It's okay, you've done enough, you are enough." And if you're the one beginning to feel this, you might not know how to name it. It might show up as a sudden sense of peace, even in the face of uncertainty. You're not looking for more time. You're looking for more meaning in the time you already have. You begin to release expectations of others, of yourself, of the future. And in that release, something beautiful happens. You become lighter, not physically, but emotionally. You stop clinging. This moment of quiet surrender is sacred. It's not something to be feared or rushed or interrupted. It's the body and spirit aligning, finding harmony after years of holding, of striving. For many, this kind of peace is what we all hope for at the end. Not regret, not chaos, but a slow unfolding into stillness. It's important to know that this shift doesn't mean giving up on life. In fact, it often brings a deeper presence to each moment, a greater appreciation. You might find yourself reaching for someone's hand more often, not to be held up, but to hold them close. You might sit with an old photograph, not to cry, but to remember. You may say, "I love you," more freely, or finally speak a truth you've carried quietly for years. When a person is nearing their final year, these moments become everything. Not the big milestones, not the grand gestures, but the small truths spoken in soft voices. The way someone says, "I'm glad you're here." The way they smile when no one's watching. The way their breathing slows as they listen to the sound of rain or the ticking of a clock. If you're seeing this in someone you love, hold them gently. Don't rush them. Don't fill the silence. Just be there. Let them guide the pace. Sometimes your quiet presence is the most loving thing you can offer. And if you're the one feeling it in yourself, this stillness, this acceptance, know that it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new kind of presence, one that doesn't need to chase time because it understands that time, in its essence, is now. Very soon, we'll talk about a final sign that brings all the others together. It's not seen in the body or heard in the voice, but felt in the way a person begins to give their life away, piece by piece. Not in sadness, but in generosity, in letting go, not just of things, but of identity, of roles, of the need to be anything other than simply at peace. If you've ever wondered how to recognize this sacred release, you'll want to stay with me. What comes next is quiet, but it speaks volumes. There's a day, maybe one you didn't expect, when you begin giving things away. Not because you're clearing clutter, not because you're downsizing, but because something in you knows it's time to pass things on. A book you've read a dozen times finds its way into the hands of someone younger. A sweater still warm with your scent is folded carefully and given to a daughter or a friend. Family photos, once tucked in drawers, are suddenly laid out on the table, as if waiting to be seen, to be remembered. This is a quiet, sacred ritual, one that speaks without needing words. It says, "This meant something to me, and now I want you to have it." It's not about possessions, it's about meaning, memory, connection, a soft letting go, not from sadness, but from completion. You might begin writing things down, recipes only you knew by heart, the story of how you met the love of your life, the way your father used to whistle when he came home from work. These aren't tasks you planned. They simply rise within you, as if your soul wants to make sure nothing important gets left behind. You're not trying to be remembered forever. You're just leaving traces, footprints for those who come after. And it's not just physical things you release, it's identities, titles, expectations, the roles you've carried all your life, mother, teacher, protector, provider. They begin to soften. You no longer feel the need to be strong for everyone. You no longer hold on to the idea that you have to be the one to fix things. You start allowing others to care for you, not out of weakness, but out of trust. This part of the journey is deeply personal. For some, it happens slowly over years. For others, it arrives almost overnight. But however it comes, it carries a kind of grace that's hard to describe. You find yourself savoring silence. You look at people more deeply. You speak less. But when you do, every word feels full. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this. As you give more of yourself away, you don't feel empty. You feel light. You feel free. There's something sacred about releasing what you no longer need. An old fear, a long-held grudge, even the belief that you always have to be in control. These quiet releases open space. Space for reflection, space for peace. Loved ones may not always understand. They may say, "You're not yourself lately," but maybe in truth, you're more yourself than ever. Maybe this is who you've been becoming all along. A soul no longer defined by doing, but by being. If you're walking through this space now, or if you're watching someone else do it, know this. It's not about endings. It's about completion. And completion is not sorrow. It's beauty. It's the final brush stroke on a painting, the last page of a book written with love. We are nearing the end of this journey together, and in the final part, I want to offer something more than just reflection. I want to offer hope, a reason to live even more fully, whether you have a year left or 20. Because even in the face of these quiet signs, life still waits for you in every breath you take. One more moment, one more truth, one final whisper. Let's meet there, together. So here we are, at the quiet edge of all that's been said. And if you're still with me, reading these words, it means something inside you recognizes the truth in them. Maybe you've seen these signs in your own reflection. Maybe you've held the hand of someone who was slowly slipping away, even as they smiled and said they were fine. Or maybe you've just begun to wonder for the first time what it means to truly listen to the body, the heart, and the soul, especially in the later chapters of life. The truth is, no one knows exactly when their final year will begin. Life doesn't send a letter. It doesn't circle a date on a calendar. It moves like a tide in and out, pulling us closer to something we can feel but cannot touch. And yet, even without certainty, we can learn to notice. We can learn to honor the signs not with fear, but with reverence. What we've talked about together, these 7 quiet shifts, aren't meant to alarm you. They're meant to awaken you, not to death, but to life. Because when we recognize that our time is precious, we start living differently. We stop rushing. We stop pretending. We begin to speak from the heart. We begin to savor the smallest things. A sunrise, a kind word, the sound of a loved one's laugh. These moments, overlooked in the busy years, become treasures. And maybe, just maybe, we stop putting off the things that matter. That letter you've been meaning to write, that apology you've carried too long, that walk you keep promising yourself you'll take. There is still time for all of it. No matter where you are in your journey, this moment, this very breath, is full of life. You are not alone. Whether you're facing the unknown yourself or holding space for someone else, remember this. It's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh even in the middle of sadness. That's what it means to be fully alive. We are made of contradictions, of joy and sorrow, of strength and softness, of endings and beginnings. And if this video touched something in you, I want to gently invite you to share that. In the comments, leave a memory, a thought, or simply say, "I'm here." You never know who might need to hear it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, because these conversations are meant to continue. We're building a space for honest, heartfelt connection for those who believe that aging doesn't mean fading, but becoming more luminous. Thank you for walking through this with me. Whatever time we each have left, let's choose to fill it with presence, with kindness, with meaning. Because even if the final year quietly arrives, it's still a year. A whole year to live with intention. And that, my friend, is a gift.